Do you know the annual impact inflation has on these American workers?
Congresswoman, real wages are up relative to pre-pandemic levels among non-supervisory and
But that number is a fairy tale, is it not?
Chair now recognizes Ms. Boebert from Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses who are here. It's been very enlightening just hearing the wealth of information that you all are sharing and answering the questions. My first question is directed to you, Mr. Kogan. In your testimony, you falsely claim that because of the trillions of dollars spent in the Biden administration, that America has the, quote, strongest economy recovery in more than a generation, end quote. And I just want to know, are you aware that just yesterday America exceeded $33 trillion in debt? This is the first time in history, $33 trillion in history. And also, are you also aware that inflation's impact is on groceries, and that is at an all-time high?
Thank you for the question, Congresswoman. What I was saying was that real GDP, we are leading the pack in terms of real economic growth among the G7 nations. We are back to where CBO thought we would be, roughly, and that we've had the first V-shaped recovery of my entire life.
So Mr. Kogan, at $33 trillion in debt, all of this is due to wasteful Washington spending by Biden, by Pelosi, financed and borrowed and they financed and borrowed and printed money that we don't have. We are spending more than we are bringing in, and yet your testimony places blame on House Republicans who are working diligently to be fiscally responsible. We're in meetings daily right now trying to get our fiscal house in order so we don't go off of this fiscal cliff that we're all hanging on the edge of. But currently we have 20 million Americans who cannot afford their electric bill. Americans have lost more than $2 trillion in retirement savings, and gas is nearly $4 a gallon. And I mean, that's back up again under this administration, and Americans are paying more for absolutely everything else. People are struggling all throughout Colorado's 3rd District. This is what I'm hearing. People cannot afford to live, and this doesn't sound like the strongest economic recovery in more than a generation to me. So now, Mr. Kogan, you also state in your testimony that under this administration, quote, inflation has gone down, end quote. And I mean, this is a bold-faced lie. Americans are paying more for everything. Do you know how much American families will pay due to inflation, the inflation tax in just over the next year?
Thank you, Congresswoman. Inflation in this case refers to the rate of inflation. That's how most folks talk about it.
Yeah, but that's not how they feel it. That's not how they're actually paying for the goods and the needs that they're trying to provide for their family, their food, their gas, their electric bills, all of these things that I've mentioned. The correct answer for how much American families will pay for this inflation tax over the next year is $8,581. That's per family. That is absolutely absurd. And in most cases, this is more than a monthly income for most families. And Joe Biden has claimed that for the past 4 decades, he has that there has never been an economic failure. And the United States has never faced an inflation crisis as severe as we are facing under the Biden administration. So now, do you know how much a gallon of gas is right now compared to 2020?
Right near me, my gas station right next to me is about $1.50 more. The reason it was so much lower during 2020
because President Trump had us energy independent, and we were producing American energy right here, good, clean American energy. We weren't relying on OPEC as much. We were relying on the American roughneck. So that's why it was lower. I'll just answer that for you. But in 2020, retail gas prices averaged $2.17 per gallon. And now we're at $3.60 up to $4.32 per gallon. I mean, that's a 50% increase. That is absolutely dramatic and unaffordable to average Americans who are just struggling to get by. And what about a gallon of milk? I mean, that was $3.32, and now $4.09 for a gallon of milk. Eggs were $1.46 a dozen, and now they're $3.44. That's a 42% increase. Families cannot afford this. Now, my last question: you also state that that gains have been particularly strong among lower wage workers. Now, for the average American family, weekly paychecks have grown about $200, but those larger paychecks now buy about $100 less for those income earners. Now, do you know the annual impact inflation has on these American workers?
Congresswoman, real wages are up relative to pre-pandemic levels among non-supervisory and
But that number is a fairy tale, is it not? If
No,
you're actually spending more for the same product that you were getting, but your paycheck looks bigger, but you're paying more for the goods that you were buying just a couple of years ago, the result is the equivalent of a $5,600 annual pay cut. So it may look good on paper. I know engineers love that. I know bureaucrats love that. I know the folks in Washington, D.C. in the bubble love the way things look on paper. But in the real world, that does not work. Bidenomics is failing American families, and so are these policies. And I hope that you would actually take a look into the real world rather than just on paper. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield.